Does a person's approach affect you, the gambler? Would you care? Would you care if a person wanted to fight the other guy? Not professional, not willing to fight him, not there's money and you're going to fight him. You want to fight that person. And the first rule of fighting is damage. First piece of criteria. So let's reword this. Your number one goal is to damage that guy. Now, you're going to attempt to do it, and whether it works out or it doesn't, you're going to be wearing short pants with a mouthpiece, and the whole world is going to see it. I mean, what would you think? Would you, as a bettor, if you don't have any other information, I'm not giving you odds and rankings and records and ages. I'm not giving you anything. I'm just telling you that there's two guys that are going to fight, and one of them really wants this fight to happen. You'd have to assume that one is not going to call out somebody that he can't beat or is unlikely to beat or is the biggest threat and risk of taking his prestige, his placement on the card, his money. Wouldn't that be logical? Because DraftKings says Umar, and the line keeps moving. I'm going to round it. I'm going to call it a 3. They've got Umar 3-1 favored to beat Merab. Now, when this opened, it was 2-1. And a week after being opened, it was 2.5-1. And it kept on favoring Nurmagomedov. And here you've got Merab. And it does beg a question, which is a bigger deal to you? And again, if you could only play one, but you get to be undefeated, that'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it? You get to be undefeated or you get to be world champion. If I could come down in the magic wand and I can make you one of those, which one would you pick? To be unblemished, nobody has ever beaten you at your chosen craft, or to be recognized as the best in the field of that craft. And it's a tough question. Umar is undefeated, which is awesome. Merab's the champion of the world. And DraftKings says undefeated is better than champion. And they're willing to give you 3-1 on it. Have you thought of it from this perspective? Because if Umar's going to beat him, how? And I don't think that you think that he's going to out-wrestle him. Like from the time they set that octagon up for the very first time in Mobile, Alabama in 1993 until present, one guy who can get on top of the other guy and hold him there against his will, like that strategy has never ceased to work. Never. It never really came down to who was a better fighter or who under a martial arts standard had the higher belt. If you had the intangible of one guy was going to be on top, and that one guy on top is going to be on top more than any other position. I mean, are you with me? Because I don't think you could give me an example. I don't think you could tell me a time that didn't work. I mean, you'd literally have to go back to the SEG days and pull out something like Royce Gracie versus Dan Severn, just for example. It would be that difficult for you to show me somebody who had a meaningful amount of top control and lost. So let's just start with that. There's not a lot of you arguing, but let's go ahead and dismiss it. Do you believe that Umar, you that are picking Umar, you that believe that undefeated is better than world champion, those of you that believe Merab's going down, do you believe he's going to be taken down and controlled? And I don't think there's a lot of hands on that. Now, the same as I tell you, a guy getting that top position and doing it more time than not, historically has been very good. One thing that we've also seen backfire almost as equal is when one guy needs the top position. He cannot win the fight from any other realm, and while he's seeking that position, he exhausts himself. That is a very, again, if I was to turn to history, that is a very likely scenario that I just laid out for you. It is very likely that Merab trying to close the distance, trying to get his hands on him, trying to get him down to the mat, has then got an extra fatigue of trying to hold him in that position and rinse and repeat from the beginning if he needs to. It is highly probable that he gets exhausted in trying to do that. That we have seen. The problem with hanging your hat on that argument is Merab has never lost a fight to this day due to conditioning. You could not tell me a time that you saw Merab lose so much as a round due to conditioning, but you could tell me times he won a round purely based on pace. You could tell me times that he moved up in the rankings purely based on pace. You could tell me times that he defeated opponents purely based on pace. So would you agree with me that that's a hard argument to make? It's a hard argument to say he can't get top position, even though he gets that on everybody, including the Olympic champion Henry Cejudo. Oh, and by the way, he's going to get exhausted while he's getting there, which brings me back to my initial point. How is Umar going to beat him? And I'm very open to what you're saying. Umar doesn't have any holes. I remember when Vitor Belfort was walking to the ring and Jeff Blatnick, rest his soul, introduced Vitor. And when he was talking about like Vitor, what he was good at and what he was bad at, he said no known weaknesses. I remember where I was and it was chilling. Like I was looking at my buddies in the room. I was looking at Justin and Marcus Lewis. We're all sitting there watching. I remember when he said it and it was like a chilling statement. And we couldn't disagree with it. Vitor Belfort had no known weaknesses. Imagine having to be his opponent. And we saw Umar in his last fight with Sandhagen lose positions. He lost scenarios. He lost a round. Now, most guys that do all those things, boy, we celebrate their career. You do that 20 years, we'll give you a Rolex and put you on the cover of a magazine. But in this sport, we've got to be very critical. We're looking at the number one contender. We're looking at a completely undefeated guy. We're looking at one of the heir apparents to the name. The second family in fighting, only to Gracie, is Nurmagomedov. So we've got to be very critical. And when we do look at how well Corey Sandhagen did in a number of positions, we then have to look to the fact that Sean O'Malley was telling anybody that was listening, give me that guy. Sean O'Malley saw something within Nurmagomedov, something that he thought he could exploit. And ultimately, we have Merab going down to Dana's office and refusing to leave until Dana agreed to make this fight. So I'm going to come back. I'm going to ask you my original question that I first proposed to you 7 minutes and 51 seconds ago. If two guys are going to fight and you knew that one guy wanted the fight, would that matter to you? Would that impact your decision? And I think that it would. I think it's very powerful. Generally speaking, and it is a broad stroke, but you can get a bunch of tough guys together. You can put them in the same proximity. Let's call it a workout room. They never have to work out. They never have to actually touch one another. And in a very short period, everyone in that room will know the exact hierarchy. We've got a world champion. Pretty good. We got an undefeated fighter. We have the number one ranked fighter in the world as champion. We have the number one contender. And DraftKings doesn't agree with those numbers. They believe it should be the other way around. They believe the champion is not the best. They believe the number one contender can, in fact, be the one to stop him. They're 3-1 sure of that concept. And I just want to know, if you don't have any other information, but you got to know what's truly in a guy's heart, not what he's doing, not what his bravado, when the cameras aren't going. And he's the one trying to get the fight. He's the one asking the boss, give me this guy. Do you think that he would ask for somebody? He wasn't sure. No, he's just so doggone competitive. He just, oh, golly, he wants to go out there and just, compete with anybody. Do you think he would do that? Do you think a guy that headlines Spear is going to campaign to be a co-main event? Or would that impact you? Because right now it's not impacting DraftKings. 3-1. They say number one contender, undefeated, is better than reigning champion.